this is what I always think, like, obviously when you start you got to look at the camera, then we don't look at the camera.
Oh, I'm in a really bad position to not look at the camera.
Do you want me to be middleman?
Are you just going to look at me and I'll look at the floor?
Yeah, you just kind of look in the distance when you're speaking, don't you? It's like, not like it.
I'll look at you, but not you.
The worst thing is when you're doing a video and they say, right, don't look at the camera.
Yeah, and then you have to
like, do not look at the camera.
Yeah. Yeah, but there's a really big person moving around. I'm going to look at you, but not you, that you.
So you're going to look at the screen at the camera?
I'm going to look at... I'll look at the camera, and
then
I'm going to look at
the
picture of it.
Got you.
And that...
Hurry up before the battery runs out. I'm sure we'll get the hang of this bullshit.
Alright, welcome back to Hardcore Corner for podcast number 2. Unfortunately, Leroy Davis was not available. Well, he was, but he did a training session and everyone died, and so he had to leave to escape persecution. Instead, we have Khifie, who is relatively new school, not quite as new as he looks, he is older than that, but new school in terms of dinosaurs versus new school. And so we thought we'd get him on to bridge the gaps between, I guess we're now called old school, aren't we?
Yeah, I'm definitely old school.
And Khifie's kind of old school, but new. Does that make sense?
Not at all.
Not at all. So that's where we're going to start off. But first, Khifie's going to give us a rundown of what he's about, what he does, what his plans are, and well, let's see what it is.
Actually, Chris, because that's his real name, Chris.
We did this out.
I only found out this just recently. Where did Khifie come from?
So
I didn't know this until recently.
When I grew up, my cousin could never say Chris or Christopher. She could only say Khifie. So then when I started growing up, I wanted to become a professional wrestler. So I kind of thought, right, I'm going to keep the nickname. So basically what happened, nobody ever called me Chris or Christopher, not even teachers at school.
Yeah.
So I thought I'm going to keep that. And I had to kind of think of something, like obviously I had to think of a persona, a gimmick for the wrestling. So it was a case of, right, I'm going to keep Khifie in, but what can I go with? Now, my second name is not West. So...
See, I actually didn't know that either.
Yeah, so Khifie West is essentially just... It's a fake name, it's fake. It's like, it's just
a Hollywood name.
So, at the time, and to a certain degree still right now, John Cena was the idol. And he's actually from West Newbury, Massachusetts in America. So I thought I'll take the West from that, put it with Khifie, but change Khifie from a C to a K. So KW looks better than TW. So always it goes down to like what kind of looked better, what sounded alright, and then because obviously I don't wrestle anymore, but my social media names were always Khifie West, then I thought because they were growing as that, I'm not going to change it, and then people are going to be like, who the fuck's Chris McCready? So I just kept it, and that's kind of where that's came
so
from.
I do know your name's Chris McCready.
Yeah.
So you're not some hardened criminal that got to change the name and passport to get out of arrest.
No.
That's a much better story than I thought it would be.
Yeah. So basically, Chris is a wrestler who can deadlift like 1,000 pounds.
Pretty much, yeah.
So it starts off with the wrestling. Is that how you started training?
Yeah, well, initially I started training because I wanted to lose weight because I was like really fat. I was really fat. Like I was probably...
How fat?
15, 16 stone fat when I was like 14, 15.
Stone for every year, that's pretty good going, yeah.
Yeah, so I was like fat, unfit, really bad at anything that I tried. But to be honest, I just kind of tried everything and never liked it. So it was a case of I would go to something for a couple of weeks and really not enjoy it, and then I would just sack it off and continue to eat pizza and shitty foods. But then I was around maybe a few months before my 16th birthday. I thought I'm going to give training a go, I'm going to give the gym a go. Because at the time there was a gym in the academy that I went to and everybody was kind of getting into the gym and things. So when we had like PE, I'm not sure if you called it PE.
Yeah.
So when we had PE, we had a couple of days of the week where we would go into the school gym. So I kind of realised pretty quickly that I was stronger than the average boy in the class, which obviously was a nice little boost for the ego, but I was still fat. But I thought I'm going to take up the gym and obviously start going to the gym outside of school. And at the time I really wanted to become a pro wrestler. Like the dream was WWE. I really wanted to become a pro wrestler, so I thought I'm going to need to lose weight, become fit. So I started obviously losing the weight pretty quickly because I was like just nearly 16, so everything was working super fast. I could literally go to the gym, eat shit, and lose weight. So it was perfect. But then got into wrestling eventually when I turned 16 because I had to wait until I was 16 to go to the wrestling school. And then I wrestled until I was, it would have been in 2018, 2019. So I ended up around 4 or 5 years. But at the time, I kind of started getting into bodybuilding training, and then I eventually had my first season. And then when it kind of became too hard to keep both of them going, because I was prepping for a show, but then I was also booked to do a wrestling show this weekend, then the following weekend, then another weekend, and it was just kind of I was getting too lean, and then I was getting booked for a match that I was potentially going to get hurt in. So then it was just kind of a little bit too risky. And then I achieved what I wanted to achieve within the wrestling, so I kind of thought, right, now is a perfect time to put it to the side and continue on with the bodybuilding. Because at the end of the day, it was kind of bringing me more from social media, sponsorships, things like that. So then it was kind of the perfect time to put it to the side and just continue on with bodybuilding.
When did you leave it?
It was around, I think it was around 2000. It was either end of 2018, start of 2019, around that time.
Not very long ago.
No. I would 110%. I've said it before. I would get back in the ring tomorrow if I could, but I just know it would be too risky.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can't afford those sorts of injuries. It was like, do you remember when John Peters went and did some jiu-jitsu once?
Yep.
And then everyone was like, I'm going to do jiu-jitsu. And then everyone's tendons all just snapped off, because obviously being muscular and being bent into shapes is a shit idea. And then, it only takes a few pop-offs. So when you stopped wrestling, were you already like strong as fuck, or was everyone in your club strong? What sort of training did you do there? Was it the same sort of thing?
It was all conditioning work. So it was all like mat work, running the ropes, like crazy card workouts and things like that. Like, it was a lot of conditioning work. So don't get me wrong, I was like a lot fitter than probably what I am right now, but I had to do all my own weight training when I got home. So I was still focusing on bodybuilding style training when I was home, but when I went to the wrestling school, which was maybe like 2 or 3 times a week, it was all just pure conditioning work. So you could have said it maybe had a little bit of a hindrance on trying to put muscle on, because I was consistently doing that sort of conditioning work, but it was what was needed to last 20 minutes in a ring with some little guy who wanted to run about for.
Yeah.
So was the amateur like wrestling less of showmanship in terms of size? Because all the WWE guys, obviously, that was part of the spectacle, was that they were monsters.
Yeah.
In the lower levels or the UK, is it not like that?
It definitely is like that. There was a lot of people who were bigger than me, and a lot of people who were, say, a lot more shredded because they were a lot smaller. But even the bigger guys were required to be able to last these sort of rounds in the ring and last like these sort of minutes in the ring and be able to run the ropes or do head springs and things like that. Like, we were always, as much as there was boys who were maybe 240, 250 pounds, they were able to head spring and flip and do everything to make sure that they were good enough to be in a ring with somebody who was maybe 80 pounds less than them and would be able to do that. So it was really athletic. It wasn't essential to do this sort of stuff, but you found that the people at the top were able to do like the sort of crazy kind of head springs and that sort of stuff.
So would you say that's a different type of genetics, being able to do both?
I don't know.
Or it is just hours in the day?
I think it's just effort into it. I think it's effort into it, because it's definitely a skill you've got to learn. I don't know if genetics can take you far. I guess there was people who didn't really have to put that much effort in and were already good at that, but surely at some point, even before they got into wrestling, they had to learn to do that.
I just meant the ability to hold on to muscle whilst doing that sort of condition.
Yeah.
They build the muscle fairly easily, so then they can smash the shit out of them. Anyway, I don't know anything about wrestling, which is probably why I'm wasting
Actually,
this
one
minute.
key thing that we need to say, when you just said there about hanging on the muscle while doing the wrestling, Chris, is Natty.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
that's another thing that we kind of have to take into account.
Which you look at some of the, well, a lot of the top guys in like the WWE, they're obviously not Natty.
No,
No.
that's, what do you mean? That's untrue, Chris.
Like not even
That's
like
a total lie.
I heard Dwayne Johnson's actually natural.
Yeah, that looks true. How old is he now? 80. And
Don't shatter my dreams, guys. There's no way the Ultimate Warrior took steroids. There's no way ever.
No chance. Absolutely no chance. No chance.
Right, so that's the wrestling segment. You got into wrestling, all that kind of stuff. So when did you decide to, wrestling's going to get parked?
Yep.
We're going to move on to, well, it wasn't powerlifting or bodybuilding that you went into because...
Yeah, it was like I just always had a love for lifting heavy. I've never had a passion for powerlifting or anything like that, or strongman or anything. I was never the one to go into the gym and just train chest and triceps. I was always the one that would go into the gym and try and pull the heaviest weight off the floor.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where that side of things came from. But whenever I wrestled, my training was still the same, and then I obviously pushed the wrestling aside when the bodybuilding became a little bit more kind of serious, what you could say anyway, when I was taking a lot more to do with nutrition, a lot more to do with prepping for a longer period of time and things. So when that kind of came up a little bit more and I was taking that a lot more serious, then that was the time to kind of push that to the side. But my training never changed.
Yeah.
And then like for my first 4 years in bodybuilding, I competed 4 years in a row until I took my first year off. So that was the kind of time as well that I competed in 2018, and that was either 2018 or start of 2019, stopped the wrestling, but I was still competed 2019 and then competed 2020 again before I took 2021 off for the first time, and obviously the wrestling was...
had you turned pro before the year off?
Yes, that was the year. Yeah, so 2020, and then I took 21 off.
So just backtracking to that, obviously before we talk about turning pro and stuff, because like when I was younger, when I done my first show back in the 40s, obviously I'm not that old, but well, how it used to be was like if you were training in the gym, one of the older guys would come over like a competitor and say, oh, you look like you got good potential.
Yep.
Or was it you who decided, yeah, I want to kind of compete, or was it someone else give you the nudge and said, you got pretty good potential, have you ever thought about competing?
Yeah, there was one guy who worked in the gym that I kind of fed off, and he helped me with training and things like that. But where I'm from and the gym that I trained at, there was literally nobody. Like, it was a tiny little leisure centre where you would get a few people in who would just be normal gym goers, or potentially
so it wasn't
like
a bodybuilding gym.
Nah.
Actually, I remember years ago you used to tag me in videos with like crazy like techno music, or blasting away doing. I remember those videos. Yeah. So that would have been actually the little studio that I trained in. It was either when I started personal training, I had a little studio where I could train at, like after say I'd done my hours of PT, and that was kind of, I actually, in many ways, like I liked that over the leisure centre, because the leisure centre there was a lot of like negativity and things like that, and at the time I just, even it's the same now, like I really struggled to deal with that sort of stuff. Like I always try and push myself away from it, but in the little studio I was myself. My own music, nobody to answer to, and it was just that was like Zen time. That was my time, kind of thing. But like Ultraflex Stardom's the first bodybuilding gym that I've came to that's got like you walk in and there's nothing. Like for the first like maybe eight and a half years of training, it was all just like I had access to a bar, a couple of machines, dumbbells, and I either had to make that work or I was travelling like 2 hours to the next closest gym. Yeah.
So.
But free weights are shit, aren't they?
I did hear that.
Yeah.
I did hear that. So.
One of the reasons we kind of want you to get on, Chris, obviously not just for the backstory, was because like Dan said at the beginning, you're kind of new school.
Yep.
But your training is still kind of old school. So how do you think you haven't gotten like roped into the all the D-handle stuff? And I mean, we're not going to overhash this one because we spoke about it on the last podcast, but how do you think you didn't get roped into that? Do you think it's just because your results were so good from the basics that you just kept with it, or do you ever get tempted to try? Because I did, when I was competing and stuff, I was just doing basics, I was getting really good results, but you get things danced around and new ideas, and I've tried some different stuff, if you like, and I just kind of went back to the stuff that worked, type of thing.
Yeah, that's definitely it's definitely one of them. Like I seen what I was able to achieve by just staying with the basics, because at the end of the day, like I didn't really have a chance
or like a choice I should say. Even when I travelled, I would travel to a gym, but the first thing I would do would be go to a platform. So it was never a case of don't get me wrong, throughout that session I would try different machines and things, but it was never a case of, right, I'm going to go to a new gym today and just do all the new fancy shit. I would literally arrive at the gym and I would go and deadlift, or go and press, or go and squat. Then I knew what I was able to achieve from things like that, and in my time coming up, it was the modern day thing to do was push-pull legs, but I was always a single body part trainer. To this day, I'm still a single body part trainer, and I don't think that's ever going to change.
So you're a bro splitter.
That's the one. So because I've kept that, and I've been such an advocate of.
How many days a week though?
I would train every day.
So still.
Yep.
So you still do 7.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing. So Chris is natural. He can train. I've said this before. You must be like a genetic freak recovery wise.
I definitely think from a genetic standpoint, my recovery must be the best thing.
Yeah.
But everything else, I've 110% had to work for. Like since I was 16, I've isolated my whole life towards training.
Yeah.
Like, I've never drank. I don't socialise. I don't go out with friends. I train. I eat my food. I train. I sleep. I easy sleep 10 hours a night. So I mean that is like.
That's
I feel bad. I'm sitting here feeling bad because you just said that you needed sleep.
Yeah, I'm all the broken. So
I mean, if you can
Yeah.
put in 10 hours a night, you can train every day, probably.
It's still a phenomenon that if you're natural, you can train 7 days a week and progress.
Well, what's you do small? Do you regiment your smaller body parts to follow larger? Is there some sort of rhythmical consideration?
So my training looks like, so say we start on a Monday, I would do legs, chest, back with no deadlifts. So that was like today, rack pulls at the end.
No deadlifts, only rack pulls.
Yeah, just rack. there's a big difference between 6 plates off the floor and 6 plates from your mid
It's still similar, I would say.
Right, so
But okay, I'm with you.
midweek back, no deadlifts. So if I done chest on the Tuesday, shoulders on the Thursday, arms is on Friday. So that's essentially like an active rest. I'm coming in and I'm not killing myself on big demanding movements.
Yeah.
Saturday is then back with deadlifts. Sunday will be back round to chest. So Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday is say chest, shoulders, chest, and then the opposite week will be shoulders, chest, shoulders. Does that make sense?
Yeah, just not something I could remember ever.
Yeah. It makes so much sense to me. That's the only reason I do it.
Yeah.
Dan can train like 4 days a week, then he gets like.
Yeah, then I die. I have to have 7 months off.
You get the virus or anything.
Yeah.
What I couldn't do is I couldn't do like, say you do like 2 on 1 off, 2 on 1 off kind of thing. So you do legs will be Monday this week, but then next week it'll be like Tuesday or so. That would.
Yeah, I know.
That's
what you mean.
way too much for me. Like
Yeah,
I just.
know what you mean.
That's,
I'm really struggling explaining that to people. It's just like you just pick your training days and then just rotate through this plan. And they're like, I can see why it's like hard.
That's too much for me. So.
But yeah, so there is some sort of like consideration of having a more restful day.
Yeah. Well,
so you can like stick with.
When you think about it, on something like deadlifts to me, so deadlifts and backs, a really big session. So arms before that is not.
You're not going to body see
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we go from deadlifts to then chest or shoulders. Don't get me wrong, relatively hard session, but still not enough to kill me before the next day. I'm always ready for legs.
Yeah, I mean, if you the muscle group split is a lot, so the recovery of each day is fairly.
Yeah.
Put your 10 hours in. I guess it could.
And then I'm always going by feel as well. So one day could be a lot harder than another day.
Okay. So you can self-manage that. You actually like, because some people can't be trusted with that.
Yeah, I think that's just been built up from experience. So I don't think I've been able to manage that as well as I do now. Like say 3-4 years ago, it's gradually got better. But it just means that one day I might be able to come in and do 2 or 3 sets more than the next day.
Yeah.
I don't track or anything. I don't.
So obviously you've got clients, and I guess your specialism in terms of your experience is being Natty. So most of your research on yourself is Natty. So I imagine you have more Natty clients. Do you advise them to do what you're doing?
it totally depends on their experience. We'll always monitor things like their recovery, and still I've not had a client who has came to me and said that they're able to train over 7 days, which is totally cool. I would never prescribe that straight away, never to anybody. I would always ensure that I made a massive effort in finding out what their experience is, what their training's actually been like, how they approach sets, what they're like in sets, where they leave sets, because all of these things matter towards whether they're able to train 4 days, 5 days, 6 days. If I'm being honest, I don't even have that many clients that train over the course of 6 days. The majority is over 4 and 5.
Yeah, and I'm guessing these are people who have like regular jobs, like yourself. You're a full-time coach, aren't you? So you're not really having a physically demanding job. If someone's got a job where they're working on a building site or something, they're not going to be able to train like 6, 7 days,
No chance.
especially natural.
So that as well, that's
So
definitely
basically,
a big
Chris is
one.
an online coach and just lays around all day,
Yeah,
eating bagels.
Just
and
like
pretty much.
turkey bacon. And that's another thing actually. So you said you used to be like extremely overweight.
yeah,
And I've caught some of your YouTube videos, and nowadays you eat a lot of food.
yeah.
So how do you think that do you think it's just an age thing, or?
Yeah, I think I've
Because you're not the
always
chubby kid anymore. You eat some food. I mean, roughly how many calories are you putting down nowadays?
around 4,500, 5,000 a day, and I'm happy with that. I'm satisfied with that. I don't go to bed hungry, and that's split over the course of the day. So I'll start eating. My first meal is usually about 11, 12 o'clock. So I'll get up and then I'll do work and then I'll eat, and then that kind of gives me a couple of hours to my next meal. Then I'll train and then eat and eat again, and then it's 4 or 5 meals.
That's when
per
you know
day.
he hasn't got a real job when he gets up at 11, 12 o'clock.
Yeah, I that's my sleep. So I've got my routine. I'll get up at 10 in the morning, and I'll work, and then I'll eat, and then I'll do a bit of work again, and then it's my time towards training, and then I come in and train at night time, do a bit of work, and then that's me. So, but I had a PT job before here, and I was starting at like silly o'clock in the morning. My last clients were like 9 at night, 10 at night. Like I've done that. I won my card on probably the most stressfulest prep ever because of how busy work was. But like I've done that. I made that work. So it's like now I've not just walked into being able to wake up when I want and sit on a computer for a few hours, and that's me.
Yeah.
I've done that kind of side, and I definitely feel that's something that is like mistook, but also a lot of people think it is very much easy enough just to walk into online coaching and be able to just do that, when it's not. And a lot of people are kind of crumbling because they think that is the way to do it, and then they'll just sack off their job, but then 3 months later they're like, oh, I need my job back, because they've realised that's not actually what it's like.
You need to do both. If you're gonna try it, you need to bridge, and that involves working both of them at max capacity at the same time. Like, I mean, that's how you should doing any endeavour of being self-employed or working for yourself or a new business. For a bit, you have to fucking die because you've got to do both. I'm trying to figure out still whether I prefer like prep or whatever with a job or without.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that some of the best preps I've had have been under like a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, and it's a double-edged sword, because if you just sit around all day, this kind of takes over. You get hungry, you get restless, all that kind of stuff. So it is a tough one.
I just quite like just going somewhere else, teaching. No one talks to me about training. No one gives a fuck.
Yeah.
And like, I just put the hat on,
Yeah.
and I can have like almost respite from like rocking, deadlift, chicken and rice.
Yeah, I think you've got to have another avenue where you kind of switch off a little bit, or you can get burnt out very quickly.
Yeah, even just mentally.
Yeah.
So the big question, Chris. So you Team Natty.
I am.
Have you ever been tempted to cross along to
I
the
have.
dark side?
We spoke about this
Yeah.
on a different podcast.
Yeah.
Is it still in the plan?
It's not, and the reason behind that is because when I signed with Gasp last year, a big part of that was because of what I'm doing for not necessarily just natural bodybuilding, because there's loads of really good natural bodybuilders, but the natural industry training, like providing a lot of what you could say data that a lot of people tend to set limitations too early on what actually can be achieved as a natural athlete. we see it time and time again. A lot of people make that jump too quick, and I would be the first person to say I've told you this multiple times before. I'm the last person to have anything against the assisted side. Like, I love bodybuilding. My goals was the Olympia. Like, I wanted to. I'm an extremist in, if I'm doing something, I want to take it the whole way, and I'll do everything to take it as far as I can possibly get it. But within like the natural industry, training's a big one to me. But I often feel as if people shy away from actually maximising their full potential as a natural bodybuilder because they're scared to.
Because they're tagging that natural.
Yeah, like it's that's definitely it's.
Well, I think it's a good point and also a great philosophy because they can use you as a marker.
Yeah.
It's like when Eddie Hall first pulled 500.
Yeah.
Now people pull 500.
Yeah.
There has to be someone to have pulled. The first guy to do it is the guy who really broke the bank and it's in the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you can show people what you can actually do natural, obviously a certain amount of genetics on your side, but it's a lot further than people think it is.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people that jump, it's to bridge a gap of not being bothered to look after everything else.
Yeah. I think it's definitely the same as it comes down to like what we were just saying about coaching. It's the same with natural bodybuilding. People take that jump too quick because they don't want to put the time into the periods where things aren't flying, where you can't just come in and lift 6 plates off the floor. Like, don't get me wrong, I go through loads of times where things aren't the way that they are. The majority of the time everything's good, but I'm not saying that everybody has got to come in and deadlift 7 plates off the floor or like press 4 plates aside or squat 6 plates aside. But to a certain degree, you have to take on board that if you're instantly having like disbelief about something like that because of, say, either your genetic potential or just the fact that you're natural or something else to have disbelief about it, then you're never going to do it. And that's definitely something that I think is huge, and that's why I always say like my mindset towards training is different to anything else. The way that I approach sets, so my 15 seconds or 10 seconds before a set is the determining factor of what's going to happen in that set. So I think because of that, like, I never have any disbelief of what I'm capable of just because of that. And I'm a strong believer in if any sort of self-doubt creeps in, then that's game over. Like,
we just had this conversation on the way down, didn't Dan?
Yeah.
Didn't we, about the the preset kind of
yeah.
what kind of, so tell us, Chris, I mean, what's your best deadlift?
Best
Because you're always like kilos and plates. What is
off the floor 320 for a triple.
So before you go for the 320, if you're getting yourself psyched up and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, can you tell us what type of things? What type of things?
I would love to tell you, but honestly, it's just.
Yes, I just said the same thing to Dan. Like, if I, like, obviously I'm not as in depth, like that deep in now, but back in the competitive days, there used to be some evil shit through my mind.
There is, and it's.
You have to have some aggression there, don't you? It's
you
like,
definitely do. You definitely do. 100%. Like, there's no chance I'm approaching a bar with 6 plates, 7 plates plus on it. Just normal.
Yeah.
No chance. No chance. That being on a squat, deadlift, even like once I'm getting to like 3.5 on something like a press, I'm immediately making that switch because I'm like, right, this is when shit can go wrong.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you approach a bar really gentle and things like that, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you should be crazy aggressive and form and that should go to shit, but when you're really gentle with things like weights, things can go wrong if you're not in where you need to be.
Don't worry, we'll ask Chris after the podcast finished. We'll ask him what he thinks, and then we'll put it in the comments. Just in case he goes to jail.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's a big one. That's definitely a big one. But I there's like different things. I'll take myself away to places that I don't want to go, but things like music and that as well. What's in my ears? There's one and only song that I listen to for deadlifts, one and only song I listen to for things like barbell squats, because that's what takes me to that point of being able to walk back with 6 plates on my back with no spot and be okay.
Yeah, there's many times I'll have something in the ears and like it's gone past that track and I'll
Yeah.
kind of rewind it back.
Yeah, yeah,
You know the deal, yeah.
I rotate through songs,
yeah.
but I will play one song for the whole thing. for the whole workout.
Yeah, because you're strange, Dan.
Yeah, that is pretty
I will literally play. I will find that one thing that burns me that day, and I will play the whole song for
Celine Dion,
for an
all
hour.
of it.
Yeah, heart goes on.
And actually, I'm joking about that, but I actually wouldn't put that past Dan because he is a very diverse individual.
Yeah.
It can be anything, but I will listen to it literally all the time.
I don't know if I can do it.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm not.
I'm gonna give it a try.
I'll prescribe you a song. It won't be so. It might be.
Yeah,
silly.
man, it's all about the setup. I would like for a certain day I'll wear certain clothes and stuff. I mean, again, not as much now because I've kind of left that side alone now. But yeah, it was something I took from Blood and Guts. I don't know if you know, I'm a big Blood and Guts fan. No shit.
That is definitely.
But yeah, I would definitely like wear the same clothes for leg day, or I would wear a certain sweatshirt for back, and I still do that now. It's still in the back. Yeah, it is weird, but just little things that kind of tie into like what's ahead type of thing.
It's a routine thing. It's like when I wake up in the morning, there's no chance I'm going to put the clothes on that I'm wearing to training.
Yeah.
When I'm switching over, like even clothes, then I'm switching into that kind of.
Like, exactly what I used to do when I had max muscle. I don't know if people know this, but I used to live in the floor above the gym, so I would finish working the counter and stuff, and I would go upstairs, even though I'd have gym clothes on in the gym. I'm not going to sit there behind the gym counter in a tuxedo. I had gym clothes on, but I would go upstairs and get changed into that body parts, gym clothes, just to kind of switch off from work type of thing. Yeah, I totally get that.
I haven't got the clothing thing because I think I only had one pair of clothes. I just had one. I'd turn it inside out maybe. If I was training, I'd turn it inside out. But as well with aggression, it doesn't need to be external. It doesn't even need to seem like aggressive. It can seem like pure silence.
Yep.
It's the internal grip, isn't it? I mean, I say all the time, like to do the stuff like you're doing and to do the real stuff. Anyone I've ever spoken to, it has to be more than just I want to look that way. It has to. Cause I don't see how you could get the driving force on vanity alone. Obviously, from anyone watching, it's like there's those guys in pants and all up. But really, a bodybuilding is an appreciation sport for people that actually understand how fucking nuts you've got to be to make it happen.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah, you're a loud trainer because I was never one for being able to kind of get the controlled aggression thing. I just got to be loud.
Yeah.
And there is kind of studies, if you like, that shows when you're making like more noise, it increases your adrenaline and stuff. Yeah. So it's not just like being a dick trying to make a noise to create attention. It is genuinely like sometimes if I've got earphones in, I don't even think I'm making that much noise until I watch maybe a video like, fuck me, like, that was a bit over the top, man. Yeah. But at that moment, that's what you need to let out. I get a lot of guys who go, yeah, like controlled aggression and stuff, and whatever works for you. But I was always I said I'm a noisy trainer.
That's always been something like with my training. It's never been. It's not. It's a hard one because it's like it's not on purpose.
Yeah, it just comes out.
It just comes out.
You're quite a controlled aggression.
Yeah, usually.
Trainer, I'm just a lazy bastard. I don't know what one it is. I've got to give that abuse. It's far too nice to watch.
I'm still quite cyclical. Like the one song, like rotating. I go through the drive changing sometimes.
I want to know what this song is. Dan.
I'm pure silent.
Barbie.
What was the other day? Free Bird from the guitar solo on repeat for an hour.
Never
I
heard
won't
it.
pretend I know what that is.
I'll go home and listen to it.
Listen to that. If you should know.
You're going to get a PR on Deadlift tomorrow, Chris, because he doesn't know.
Free Bird, mate. It's the longest guitar solo in history. Anyway.
Well, I'll give it a listen.
There you are.
I'll give it a listen.
Yeah, it's on the mandolin.
Right, so we've got a bit of Chris's background. What's the future plans, Chris? Future plans. Gasp now and everything, and you're doing a lot of promotion for those guys. And
competing wise, we're taking, obviously we've took this year off. We're nearly at the end of the season already, which is pretty mental. I would like to say right now, looking into the 2024 season, so next season, after another year off, which I think this season's definitely been a massive, off season's been a massive one for me. Everything just feels different. Everything feels just as if it's going to be a good prep and things like that. And everything's in a really good spot. What I have to take on board is my age. I'm super grateful to win my pro card out of the junior division, but I've now stepped into a league where the majority of the pros within the league now are 35 plus. Like I'm against guys that have been doing this for double the time I've been doing it. Not that's like the furthest from an excuse or anything like that. It's just a case of I'm maybe not at the position yet where I can achieve that like granite hardness that someday.
Just comes with like years of muscle maturity, doesn't it? Sorry, because how old are you actually? We didn't ask you that.
25.
25.
Yeah.
So you're still pretty young.
So
we can't remember that far back. Daniel, not even old. He's not even in the 40s old yet.
Not yet. Sort of fucking still hurtling towards the grave at an incredible speed.
So yeah, that's the big one for me. Right now, I say that plans could change, anything could happen. We've got a lot of stuff happening as well with Gas, going back out to the Olympia and that with them. Potentially going back out to Sweden for their qualifier and finals, I believe it is. They have loads of stuff going on, so there's quite a lot of stuff happening even into the new year and that. But competing wise, that's really where we're at right now. But like I say, might change. Might get to the middle of next year, or might get to the time where we'd start prep and we might take another year. But I would like to say right now we'll look at next year, because I do like to get into that kind of. I like to come out of off season and I'm usually ready to diet.
Tired of like shoveling food in.
Yep. But that's,
Is it BNBF you compete with?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm totally lost.
Yeah.
There's a lot of national federations now. The only one I used to know was BNBF.
Was that a biscuit?
Was it
BNBF?
a biscuit?
Or was it? Oh, it's BNBN.
I don't know.
No, it's BNs. BNs are biscuits.
Yeah,
they're like sandwich
and they had
biscuits.
a song like BNBN.
I think. Yeah,
I must have missed that one. I have no idea what a BN
No,
biscuit is.
that
is a thing.
Yeah. I think I'm sure that is a thing.
Okay, I can't trust the mind.
I'm sure that is a thing.
Okay.
But BNBF and then the Pro League is DFAC, so they're aligned. But obviously DFAC Pro Leagues.
It's like
again,
NPC and IFBB.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So that's where we are now.
Did we have any questions?
We did, honestly, we put like a post up with it, because this was a last minute thing, wasn't it? What time are we now? Like 11 o'clock at night. Just Christmas training night. You're in the house down. We decided to like mash a last minute kind of podcast together, because we've been supposed to be doing one for a few weeks now, and we're just trying to get everything aligned. And said Leroy was here this weekend, but he had to go home. We had Nathan here training. We had, what else did we have going on, Dan? We had a bit of a sampling day with Khifie and stuff, so it's been a busy weekend. We're just kind of cramming this at the end, guys. So
Naked taxidermy.
Yeah, we'll just edit that one out. Thanks very much.
Going to probably cut that bit.
So we put a little thing up on Instagram this evening. We did get a handful of questions, so I'm sorry. Next time we will remember names and we will note things down and stuff. But Greg Steele, I remember Greg asked, what direction is the coaching industry headed in? Because you two guys are the full-time coaches. I do a little bit of coaching. I'm not a full-time coach.
But that's only because you're so busy.
Yeah.
I like to keep my hands in a few pies. Obviously, I've got the gym, the clothing, the supplements. I do a little bit of coaching. I still do a little bit of in-person PT. I do like my hands-on in the gym. I just like to do a little bit of everything, just so I don't get kind of stagnant, if you like. Well, yeah, guys, what's the opinion on the? We'll not try to hash this one out too long, because it's a touchy one, isn't it? The whole coaching thing, because everybody's a coach now.
I think that's the problem.
Sorry, I just think it's, now you go to a show and there's a coaching show. It's like a coaching competition. It's like, it's now such an integral part. It's like there's a whole, like they should have their own federation. And then,
I mean, this is a touchy question, and it's just the thing that's been brought up to me over the last few months is like, do you think your placing is associated to like who your coach is? Because we have a few big name coaches, and I've seen a few coaches getting a little bit of slack because they go, so and so only won because they're with this coach. Or do you think that's going on, or do you think it's just people complaining again about some shit about politics and all that kind of carry on? Or do you think there's some truth to that or not? Or we'll keep it real on here.
To a certain degree, there is going to be athletes who are simply going to be better than others, who are going to place better because they are a better athlete, whether that athlete's been with that said coach forever or they've became a really good athlete in themselves and they maybe just need that little bit of extra help. I think that's got to do with it, but
I honestly do think, and again, me myself and Dan discussed this, because Dan's like me, like we do training videos and stuff, but not to the extent of yourself, because you're kind of, you make a living from social media, etc. We do odd videos here and there. And I said to Dan, you need to get a little more training footage up, because it's not like the old days where nobody knew who was coming, whoever turned up on the day, boom, the best bodybuilder won. I think it does kind of make a difference if you let them know you're coming type of thing, and you have to put a little bit of footage up and stuff, because again, we're getting a lot of like the amateur shows. Certain federations got a lot of athletes in there, and you've got to like let them know you're coming. If you like, you've got to let your name get a little bit known. If you like,
just even basic psychology is if you know who someone is, or like, or you even like, I think I know that person or that name, and you do it even in a room. Like if you went to a party, I think, isn't that so and so?
Yeah.
Like
you're gonna get eyeballs, aren't you?
You would just, you'd think, oh, hang on, isn't that? I think I've seen them, and it just, they might look at you first, and if the margins are small enough, and they looked at you first, then in that second they might have made the decision that that's the look.
Yeah.
So just, even though obviously they're trying to be like, as you know, as to the book or whatever is subjective. And there's basic human psychology, and if it's the margins are that close, and they look at you first, that could be it.
Yeah.
You know, maybe not for all of the judges.
And if they look at you, if they know your name and they look at you in shit shape, then you're not going to win.
No,
exactly.
So
exactly.
I think the politics thing's kind of chucked out that way. But yeah, I definitely think nowadays with Instagram and Facebook and stuff, guys are getting a little bit more well known and getting eyeballs on them, if you like.
I mean, I've never had a decision made against me, and I've lost a lot that totally didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I might not have like got it at the time, or maybe I could even disagree with it, but at least there was an angle and it made sense. I've never like had one that's been totally fucking alien, that made absolutely sense. And I think that it is rare. And ultimately, I've judged at like one show, and it's really fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's really fucking hard to judge a bodybuilding show based on a criteria. I mean, even more so for the females, but it is fucking hard. But I've never like had a decision that has been totally like mental. That like usually, that's why I say to anyone, if you do a show and you've lost, just don't say anything for a week.
Yeah.
Just a week, and then if you feel the same after a week, then maybe cunt everyone off on the internet.
Yeah, I mean, we did go off a little, like with the coach thing, a little bit off tangent there. The main discussion I was having with someone today was, you know, somebody posted something about ChatGPT is going to take over coaching because it can work your macros out, it can, you know, work your foods out and stuff for your X amount of body weight. Me and Dan just had a discussion earlier, like, AI can't like look at you and say, right, we need to drop some carbs, or we need to add something else, or we need to increase cardio or decrease cardio, or add a certain compound if you're a certain athlete, whatever. So yeah, I do think it's having an impact on the basic lower level, but I think the top coaches are still going to be the top coaches, where you got to make calls and decisions. Unless AI comes out with a thing, probably in so many years' time, where you just step in this pod and it says, right, okay, we need to drop 30 grams of carbs out this week, or as a coach, you've got to have an eye, haven't you? So
I think that's the most important thing, and I think also, even at like the baseline side of not even competition prep coaching, I think you should at least have some sort of like groundwork and getting your hands dirty on things like maybe PT or things like that first. I think the harsh part of it is there's never going to be qualifications for it, so you're never going to have to go through anything for it, but I do think to a certain degree there should be, like, it would be great if there was something that you had to do to get to that next level. But what you tend to find is the majority of people that do crumble in it are the ones who do think it is just an easy run and it's easy money, and they think after a few months they're going to have 100 clients and they're going to be flying. But it's always the ones that crumble because they end up going in and it's like, right, what do they do? And they don't know.
It's a research project.
Yeah.
And for someone who's astute, who's astute and clever and knows what they're looking at, it's the greatest research project there is. And so you can read all the studies and all the things. All of those are based on a demographic of people and watching their results. If you go and put 5-10 years into doing that with people from you obviously use the science or whatever, that's a better research project than 99% of the research that's out there is you. So you just think of, so the fact that you think that you could have just done it and like just applied it, you know, is madness, in ignorance, really. But that's why this is kind of on a tangent, but it's like when people talk about bro science.
Yeah.
Like bro science is if people aren't idiots, is the greatest research project that there's ever been. Obviously, like certain amount of bros, if you're an idiot, then you don't understand. But actually, watching bodybuilders do something and analysing what happens is a good.
Yeah, this is kind of where I have the not the problem or the issue, but I don't see how someone can be a coach at like 16 years old because you haven't even learned your own body yet. So again, that's the thing that I have with the coaching, and that was kind of where I was going with it. Like, yeah, how long have I been coaching? Like 9 years maybe. Yeah. I think for the first couple of years I did some guys for free just to learn and get some knowledge. Same with the PT. When I started first doing PT, I did some free sessions and stuff because I didn't feel appropriate charging people because I was still learning type of thing. You can't charge something that you kind of don't know anything about.
Yeah, but you still need to learn that bit more about.
Yeah, that is true. When I started, which probably was like, well, I wouldn't even call it starting. It was an evolution of people going, hey, you did a thing, can you help me? Like,
yeah, that's how I started.
Like write it on a fag packet. You know, like.
I didn't write it on a fag packet. We don't come small guys, so this is still a bodybuilding contest.
But like, you know, and then you'd help people for free, and then when you first started, it was incredibly cheap. Yeah. But you've got people starting up, and it's like, well, what's everyone else charging? Well, I am £200. And then some people go, that sounds good because it's £200. It's like putting stuff on Amazon. You're not supposed to make. You can't make it too cheap. Yeah. It has to be just one up.
In a nutshell, I don't think AI is going to take over online coaching anytime soon.
AI is going to develop in the way that it first is always designed for, which is porn first, and then
Dan always has to know it.
Once AI has worked out how to wank everyone off forever, then they'll apply it to something useful.
This isn't even going to get that, is it? Right, let's move on. Let's move on swiftly. Our podcast is called Hardcore. Was it Hardcore? Different kind of hardcore. The other one was what is the new Mecca of Bodybuilding? Is it? Let me think. It was 3: Dubai, Dallas, or Vegas. Big shout out to Destination Dallas actually because they play Forever Hardcore Motivation Channel. I got tagged today. There's a guy called Leroy. It's not Leroy Davis. He sent me a screenshot today.
Leroy Mavis.
Playing in Destination Dallas. So our ugly faces should be on Destination Dallas. So heads up to you guys.
I've made it.
And I do want to actually head out there. I want to head to Mecca because you've been to Mecca, Chris.
Oh yeah.
I want to go to Destination Dallas.
Is it as hot as it looks?
Absolutely.
Fuck, I would die.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I want to get that one boxed up soon before I'm complete dust and I have no spine. I would actually probably herniate another disc just a 3-bar squat.
I'm there. I'm there for that. The one that's like just 2 pins?
Yeah, and you're going to die.
These 2 pins are still there.
Are they there?
Yeah, literally.
Have they just been drilled into the ground by Ronnie's squat?
I don't even think they're. I think they just rattle. They just move.
Yeah, those things scare the shit out of me.
Once
I can't even rock in on a normal run. Never mind those things.
No. I had one at lockdown, and Alice was like spotting me and she went, "Yeah, you're in." I wasn't in. And I just tipped forward and just head by the wall, and it was interesting. But I fucking hate those things. You can only look at one side at a time.
Yeah, I don't know. You see out of one eye, so I'm going to die if I go there. Yeah, I think we'll stick to the leg press.
That's definitely a.
Did you get any questions, Chris? Like I say,
what was the Mecca? Did we decide apart from?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, obviously, Autoflex Durham's the North East.
Yeah, I would say.
Yeah. We actually had a guy here a few weeks back, and he said he's been over to Dubai. He's trained over in Goals. For me, when I went to Goals Gym, it was a long time ago when it was actually classed as being a good, hardcore gym. I was a little bit disappointed, but we had a guy in here. He said, he sounded like a bias and blowing out one trumpet here, but he said this gym was even better than Dubai and Goals. So
I think Dubai, one of the biggest things, just
too many distractions.
Yeah. That's like, don't get me wrong, somewhere like Bunus in Dubai is a really good gym, got really good equipment, but
just kind of for the experience and not like an everyday kind of.
We got to that point where we had to train at specific times because we were there for long enough to not just go away on holiday and fuck about for a few sessions. It got to that point where I had to train, so we were getting up much earlier and going in at times where it was a lot less quiet to be able to train, because you go in after say 1 PM and it's just influencer central, and then everybody who wants to meet the influencers, and it's just there's nothing going on apart from that. And I think that's one of the biggest things about that. But
that sounds shit.
Yeah, it's if you go in at the wrong time.
Yeah, if you're a serious bodybuilder, that sounds shit, but I guess now...
You'll find the majority of bodybuilders out there will go early in the morning because...
Yeah. But you have a lot more people now going to the gym who are not serious bodybuilders, and it's kind of a... I'm not going to say a social event, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing at all. It's just, back when I started, but yeah, back when I started, the only people who went to the gym were people who want to get bigger and stronger and be bodybuilders. Now there's like Gen Pop go to the gym as a kind of social event, which is cool. You know, we have a lot of people here like Overfresh Gym. It's not better or worse. It's just different now.
Yeah.
As long as you can. That is the one thing that I like about not teaching, is that I can go whenever the gym's dead.
Yeah.
So I can pick my times when it's the emptiest.
Yeah.
And I always used to just pick Sunday, because when I started, everyone was on the session, and there's not many sessions anymore. Not people. I don't know what it's like around here, but back when I started, everyone was out on every weekend. Town was mental all the time. So you go on like Saturday or Sunday, and it's absolutely dead.
Yep.
And then I could just make up my other sessions. Like usually on Monday they're like feeling a little bit rough, and then by Wednesday maybe they'd come in.
So by the time everyone's recovered, you've done your split.
Yeah, that was the plan.
Because you only train 2 days a week.
Yeah,
I was going to say that's what you usually chose Saturdays.
Yeah, I've known Christmas.
Another one. What was another one? This is quite a kind of long-winded question for a podcast like this late, to be fair. Best advice for an aspiring young bodybuilder, which is like for me is keep it simple. Often we have to elaborate a little bit more than that. Don't get caught up in the bullshit.
Don't overcomplicate things.
Yeah. Learn
how to train hard before you pick up a D handle and try and spend your whole session on a cable machine. That's me.
I mean, I think that is learn how to train hard mentally. What you don't want to do is get the burst of being a new beginner, which you'll get by doing anything, because you got from no training to training, and then go and do like the fluffy thing, and you will still get results because it's gone from nothing to that.
Yep.
And then find that your mental capacity is way behind where you are. You need to train your mind at the same time as the body, because that newbie thing will stop, and if your mentality is behind, then you're going to then have to solidly work on that.
Yep.
And you see a lot of people stall after that. Newbie gains is great, but it's not a good time to develop feedback on your physique, because you've gone from fuck all to training. That's a massive stimulus. Whether you can actually keep up a stimulus that's great enough to continue to progress, I feel is in the mind.
Yeah, I agree. And
you were saying this in the car. You were saying like, well, when you start out, you shouldn't train too hard.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing when I'm a big advocate of like high intensity, low volume stuff, which is, it is what it is. Everybody's got their own opinion of trainer style, and there's no right or wrong way. But the one thing I don't understand is when people say, when people start training, they don't understand how to push themselves to that level to train HIT. Now, to me, if someone puts a bar in front of you and you just say, right, do that as many times as you can, does that need any kind of like training or like kind of mentorship to just say, do that as many times as you can? I don't understand that. Obviously, as you train and you progress and your mindset kind of gets a little more into the game, like we were saying, like maybe as a beginner isn't thinking about somebody murdering the dog before they're doing a set of deadlifts, which you told me, you said, oh, that's what you think, Chris. No, you didn't say that.
Not the dogs.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I used to think that, because obviously things that important. I used to think, oh, someone's going to run Floyd over, like, fucking, that kind of,
Yeah, literally.
I remember, Michelle might watch this, but we were doing a set of this is totally going off here, just went on about so Michelle was doing some Cybex hacks. Michelle Innes. Thanks, Michelle. We'll get you in on this one. Hope you don't hate me for this. And I said, like, listen, if you don't get 2 more reps, your kids are going to die. Because I think I was like, yeah, she's got a son, I think. And I said, your son's going to die. And she like looked at me a bit funny, but yeah, maybe that was a little bit over the top. But she did get extra 2 reps. So.
Well, then they're not going to die.
Yeah, so
win-win.
That's the one.
Yeah, you know what I mean.
If they'd have failed it would have been a bit of an awkward bit, like, okay, are you going to do it, or do I have to do it?
Yeah.
Luckily, the logistics never came into play. I still think that's where the fact that they can't train to the intensity, and it's like, okay, cool. So your progression is fine. You shouldn't train as hard when you start out, and you can't anyway.
Yeah.
So just lift that as many times as you can.
Yeah.
And don't be a dickhead.
Just one thing I want to elaborate on is because we're going about the whole free weights machines thing and basics. Of course, machines have their use because myself and Charlie would have spent absolute fortune on this kit. And my workouts were always kind of 50-50-ish.
Same.
Well, yeah, I think nowadays people are just, it's not even the machines, it's the actual intent when they're on the machine. It's just like, everything's kind of made to be as easy as possible. Like, I don't see the stimulus people get. And again, we're not going to go into this the whole thing over and over, but if you've got this much on a machine and you're doing all these, it's just not the same as making a dumbbell or even slapping a bit of weight on that machine and giving it some type of thing.
And I'm all for resistance curves and all of that, but I would use a resistance curve to make it harder.
Yeah.
I don't understand conceptually the other way around. And this isn't to do with the hack. You know, everyone, they ban the hack one way or they ban the hack the other way. It's actually exactly the same resistance-wise. It's like they're stretching it.
Yeah,
so it is the same. So I'm not talking about that. Everyone's like, oh, it's reverse bandage. It's the same. But I'm just like, if you're going to follow that, surely it should be to make it harder. Unless you've got an injury. If you've got an injury, cool, ban whatever you can. So
that
you
would
can do
probably
this.
be the one and only time that I would say to reverse ban something, would be if you've got an actual injury that's the only next step.
Yeah.
But a little bit of pain in your knee, to me, is not enough to reverse ban that.
Yeah. I mean,
If you've only got one knee, then that's still not enough to reverse ban that.
In a nutshell, whether it's machines or free weights and everything, don't overcomplicate it with the whole super slow negatives and all that stuff and adding all these attachments and stuff. You really don't need to do it. It's,
well, I mean, if you're doing the intensity, all of that, fine, you'll probably still grow, but it won't be the attachments that made you grow. It'll be the intensity, and that is undeniable. # less science.
like, come on, guys, you must have got some questions. I can't go on my phone.
Did I get questions?
We've got recording backup on our phone just in case.
Yeah, we're
Because
recording.
Dan forgot to charge the mic.
I'm not gonna
So
even.
if the sound on this is total
try-
shit,
I'm not even gonna
it's
try
Nab's
and
fault.
buoy up the. Have you got any assisted guys on your system?
I have 3.
So what would you say if you were going to pick, let's just pick 3 as well, 3 like main differences when approaching one compared with the other? Obviously the obvious.
Comparing an assisted to a...
Yeah, just like, is there any main considerations when someone comes to you and you go, they go, I'm assisted, and one of them goes, I'm Natty. Are there any ping moments you know exactly, like, well, not exactly,
how I
but
would approach them
yeah,
differently? Just health checkers and recovery is the main 2 that I would straight away go for. So I think for a natural athlete as well, don't get me wrong, taking to do with your health is very important, right? But it's nowhere near as important as an assisted athlete who is using loads of different things. So what we have to take on board as well is, right, a lot of natural athletes nowadays in this industry take a lot more to do with things like their bloods and things like that, so into depth to the point of you would think that they're actually using, because they're taking more to do with that than just focusing on eating, focusing on resting, focusing on training. Because I think within the natural industry, what I tend to find is you look at the very best at the top of the game in the natural industry and they focus on what they're eating and their training, and that's literally it. But then you're looking at people coming into the natural industry or they're coming up on the amateur division and they're taking like their blood pressure and that first thing in the morning, they're trying to deal with all these sort of things that maybe only an assisted athlete should be doing whenever they're like, that's the thing as well, like nowadays compared to the dinosaur days where there wasn't as much.
When you said that?
I tried to kind of look in the
No,
middle.
I made sure I didn't look.
I tried to look in the middle.
I saw you trying to look at me, and I was like, oh, no, fuck this.
The amount of knowledge in that about nowadays, and the amount of what you could say ways that people are trying to do it safer and things like that is huge and is different. And I feel as if, like, I know the guys that I've got on right now, none of them are actually competitors, but they have been in the position beforehand to always take things to do with their health and stuff like that. So I'm never having to be like making sure that everything's okay, making sure that, like, from a perspective of things like training and nutrition and things like that, not that much changes. Because again, for me, for somebody that wants to work with me, I don't want them to come to me and expect me to turn around to them and say a million different things and try and say all these big fancy words and overcomplicate everything for them. I want them to come to me for the approach of how to maximize the most out of where you're at to get to where you want to be as simple as possible, and be able to show them that it is as simple as possible.
don't get me wrong, some people maybe require a little bit more attention than others, or some people maybe require a little bit more answers than others, but for the majority, it's just pretty much the same.
Have you ever had a guy who was natural and then progressed over to using anabolics or whatever? And have you noticed a dramatic change in the recovery and stuff? Because I've had some guys who are natural, very genetically gifted as well, and I've just anticipated when they've kind of moved over,
Yep.
I expect like shit, they're going to recover much faster,
Yep.
they're going to grow much quicker, and it kind of hasn't happened, which is a strange one, because generally, if someone's pretty genetically gifted,
Yep.
you think the next step where they go,
Yep.
you would think, Jesus, they're going to accelerate real quick,
Yep.
and it just kind of didn't happen. Have you ever had anybody like that? Or?
I've never had any clients who's been natural and made the jump, but I've had people who's been like relatively close to me in like my kind of generation or coming up who's made that jump and have had maybe a good few months of everything being so much better, everything feeling so much better, but then it's kind of started falling back a little bit, and what you could say it's not been as, it probably has got to do with them coming off a little bit, or just coming off like whatever they've been doing, say I don't know what if they've been blasting or something like that, or then they come back, then things have been different. But from what I've seen anyway, I think obviously things like recovery and that have been so much better, but when it comes back, then that's the kind of part that you see of, not has it been worth it, but I don't know if I could deal with that position of feeling this big high,
Yeah.
and everything being so much better. Like, I obviously know that my recovery is alright now, but like I get really fucking sore after some sessions, and I think if I was to feel 10 times better than that and not get as sore and be able to just full send and not even have to auto-regulate things in that, like the way that I do it in right now, then come back to the part of training falling down a bit and recovery falling back a bit, I think that would be.
That's interesting you say that, because I don't know how you approach it, Dan, and we've been working together for a while now. So if someone is on cycle, let's say they're training like 5 days a week, when they come off, I will probably pull them back to like 3 or 4. You have to have that adjustment period. Because in reality, if you're taking PEDs, anabolics, whatever you want to call it, and you're making progress, when you come off, realistically, you're not going to make any progress. So I try and like pull people back and just like hold what they have if you can. Try and maintain the strength the best they can, type of thing. Probably reduce the food a little bit because they're not assisted. And that was the mistake I made when I was younger. Like, you know, I would be on cycle, then I would come off and think, right, you know, I'm off stuff now. I need to train even harder. I need to eat even more food, which is totally the wrong thing to do because you're not assisted anymore. I used to just dig that hole deep, and I just went on in a kind of a spin until I learned that unfortunately you do have to pull back, and like you just said there, some people have a hard time with that.
The mental side of things,
it's just a necessity, because you're not going to, realistically, you're not going to progress when you've come off. It's a sad, like, kind of.
I mean, after
reality.
a while, anyway. After a while, maybe on your first touch or something, you could probably. Like, but I mean, I think a lot of people that didn't. That's what I did. I was like, come off and be like, off, schmoff. I'm gonna get massive. I just turn into a fucking potato.
Just do double, didn't you? Because you're off, you had to work even harder.
Yeah, that was.
You just got to be a bit smarter.
Yeah, that was definitely that kind of myth of.
Yeah, and I just turned into a potato, basically. And then I'd be on top, like, yeah, see, I made loads of gains. And then I'd be like, oh shit, I've got all these like 5 hours.
Right, any more questions, guys, before we wrap it up? Come on, Dan, you've got loads of fans. You must
Did I have questions?
You probably didn't look in your inbox. You didn't even share the post. I don't think Chris shared it.
To be fair, my phone.
You probably just.
I was trying to charge all the things that I didn't charge.
You didn't charge.
I had my phone charger in the thing, and then I didn't charge the thing. At least I charged the camera.
Plus, you had it since yesterday, Chris. So I was a little bit busy.
Yesterday? What time did I get back?
Yeah, I had a little bit of a busy day yesterday, and I was like, Dan, you take care of the camera. You charge the camera.
I got back at 11. I had to jog to Aldi.
11? How did you get back at 11?
I don't know. Wasn't I here?
Yeah, you probably was at reception talking for about 5 hours because you worked out till the last 45 minutes. So hopefully, guys, when this goes out, it actually has some audio. Otherwise, we're going to have to like subtitle it or sign language it or something.
That's fine. AI.
Guys, honestly, we have no clue what we're doing, but we will get there. So
Yeah.
hang in, do all the subscribe, notification, all that kind of, click the bell. we will get better at this. We just right now we just have no idea what we're doing. We bought a half decent camera, we bought some mics and stuff, which one of them we haven't brought, and one is in charge.
Well, we
will
were going to
get there, guys.
We were going to do them online, but Leroy's carrier pigeon wasn't working. He thought that is how you do a podcast.
No, in Mr. Davis's defence, he has been tied up with like family obligations and work obligations, which are going to kind of calm down over the next month or so. So we will, you know, whenever we can meet up in the hardcore corner, we'll get it done here. But we do have some backdrops and stuff done to kind of make it feel that we're in the hardcore corner. So we're going to get one done bi-weekly, very, very soon, guys. Sort of.
Mate, hopefully.
Dan's getting a little bit deeper in the pep now, so he's probably going to disappear now.
I'm not going to disappear, mate. I'm a podcast genius. Just maybe not at 11 o'clock at the night.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we'll call that the questions. We've hit the time. It's late. You've been hardcore. We've been Hardcore Corner. Until next time, stay massive.
That sounded like some kind of game show.
Yeah, I know. I'll say it. I thought it was quite good, wasn't it?
We've definitely got.
Why don't you do it?
Got to make this sound.
We'll
like
get
a
some
game
buzzers
show.
and all
Why
that.
don't you-
Yeah.
Why don't you do one?
Oh,
Come on,
no,
we've
it's
got to
too
do
late.
one.
I need.
Stay
I'm-
next.
this is-
Stay next.
This is eating into my 10 hours of
Stay
sleep.
night.
Yeah, I'm eating my 3 hours of sleep.